Well, this is the end of week 2, day 1, and it's a little after 7 o'clock. I've been here since 8 this morning and I am exhausted. We had a long day today. My roofer just left a little while ago. They got to come back tomorrow morning and finish demoing the last of that. And those planks are not easy to get off. I'm watching them struggle. Took them maybe 3 hours to get the shingles off. When they started taking the planks off about 11, they left about 6:30, so it's definitely hard work. And my dumpster guy was supposed to bring a 30-yard dumpster today. All he brought was an additional 20, so that's all they had, and we're gonna have to get another dumpster, but you know, there's gonna be a continuous flow of dumpsters throughout this job. So me and 2 of my carpenters were here today working on the temp wall and got a lot done. And to be honest, we probably could have finished this thing, but plus a lot of debris was coming from the roof while they were taking the decking off, so it was falling in here. We didn't really want to get hit by boards with nails, so we just got this section done, and we did all our strong back studs, and we got these the lower horizontal supports. Most of them are in place except that last one. It looks like we gotta do one more, but they're all laid out and they got screws ready to go when we put the boards in. So I took a bunch of pictures of this first section. I'm gonna send this in an email to my engineer tonight, see what he says, if it's approved or not, if we need to make any modifications. Hopefully not. I think this is built pretty strong. Didn't do a very good cleaning job today. I'm exhausted though, so can't wait to get out of here and go home. But very happy with our progress today. The studs are nice and straight. We are no longer taking the stud down after we scribe it to bring it down and cut it. We're bringing a saw up there with us, and it's making it a lot easier, a lot quicker. So my electricians still have a couple wires to take out. And oh, another thing we did today, now that this roof is open, we had to put all this plastic up to protect the alarm system and the electrical service. We got those huge conduits running down, so we wrapped that in plastic. A lot of the plastic on top of this conduit is permanent throughout the job. Over here, the reason I'm here so late tonight is because I got this all covered up by myself, and I wanted to stay till the roofers left anyway, but I had to get this all covered up and did that myself. So over here I didn't have enough plastic to wrap around the pipes. I just went over. It's all stapled down pretty well. Problem is, if we get a good rain, it's gonna pool. There's gonna be a bunch of pools of water on top of that conduit, so that's not really ideal. But I feel a little better now that those are protected, and we can probably work on a more permanent solution to that tomorrow. I'm not too worried about the conduit, except where the big thick 2-inch conduit, except where those couplings are. But there's that huge BX cable up there that I don't want to have to replace, and I don't want that to get rained on and rust out. So anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. It's been a long day, and I'll keep you updated tomorrow. So I'm here at the end of week 2, day 2, and we finished demoing all the decking off the roof today. Took 2 guys all day because they had about a 3 or 4 foot strip on the bottom, and then that section right up here over the 2nd and 3rd door. So we got that dumpster overflowing. I'm gonna have to do something about that tomorrow. These 2 dumpsters are full. That dumpster over there is, I don't know, maybe half full or so. We're gonna fill it up with these rafters soon. But so we had 2 roofers and 2 of my carpenters and myself working on this today. We have our temporary wall almost finished. Didn't quite finish it yet, but it was 2 different carpenters of mine, and it was a little learning curve, but once they got going, they were moving pretty good. We got these boards up there to walk on, and they can just barely reach the top, so we'll easily finish this temporary wall tomorrow. But then we gotta go back and add those 2x4 braces up there, which that will go quick as well with the boards to walk on. That'll go real quick. So cleaned like crazy. 7 o'clock right now. I've been here 11 hours again. I'm exhausted again, and spent like the last 3 or 4 hours organizing, cleaning. There's all kinds of stuff around this garage that they left here before we started, so I brought it all to the other side where we're going to be doing phase 2, but we're not working there right now. Got a lot of stuff cleaned up out of here. Organized our little tool bench, if you want to call it that. Got that compressor cleaned off. That was driving me crazy with all the insulation stuck in the grill back there. But yeah, tomorrow finish this last 2 bays of this wall. Probably first half of the day, and then I think we're just gonna move on to demoing rafters. I got my engineer's blessing today. He said the wall looks good and strong. He's not worried about it. So that means we can come in here and start demoing those vertical boards that go up to the ridge, these diagonal boards that go from the middle to the middle. We're gonna cut this beyond the conduit and get rid of that. Between tomorrow and, so today's Tuesday, tomorrow and Thursday, I think we can get most of this roof demoed. If we need to go into Friday, that's fine. That puts us right on schedule. By the end of week 2, we're supposed to have the rafters and joist demoed. So, we're looking good. Kind of getting excited to start demoing these headers. It's gonna be a real challenge, but I think our plan is a good one, and so we might be starting that. I might start messing around with it on Friday at the end of the day, just to get my mind wrapped around it a little bit. Probably bring my demo saw. I'm thinking about renting this special demo saw for concrete. That's, I think it's called like a snap and break saw. It's got 2 blades spinning about 1 inch apart that go in about, I think, 4 feet deep, and then you pull that out and you snap off the little piece in the middle, and then you switch over to a single blade that fits and can go another 4 inches inside of the slice you just made. So that, I think, is enough to get us through this. I think this is about, I thought it was a foot. That looks bigger than a foot to me. Oh, there's wood right here. So yeah, I think this is a foot. Maybe like 13 inches. And I have a regular demo saw with diamond blade, and you could put the fiberglass blades in it, but I think that only goes about 5 inches deep, which doesn't quite do it on this. So I think I might need to rent that snap and break saw. But anyway, we're looking good. It's been a long day again, but I'm glad I got it cleaned up in here. It looks great. When I get my job site cleaned up, I feels like cleaning your bedroom to me, or cleaning your car. But anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good night. So I'm here at the end of week 2, day 3. So we are 8 days into this job, plus my time. I came here for half a day on Saturday by myself, and we're ready to start taking this roof apart in the front. Got our temporary wall 100% finished. All the bracing at the top. We are screwed off to all these joists on every third stud. We are completely done. We had to come past. This was where we were stopped yesterday. The last strong back. These last 5 studs went in today. And this is exactly where phase 1 ends. So we're gonna be demoing up to that last rafter on the right side of the post. Everything to the right of that is phase 2. So we went exactly to where we needed, and we would have started demoing rafters today, but it's raining and we don't want to get up on the roof. But hopefully tomorrow will be nice and we can start with that. That stuff goes quick, so Thursday and Friday these rafters will be gone, if possibly even tomorrow, so we'll see. Nice and straight all the way down, nice and plumb, fully supported, nice and clean in here again. I managed to do a nice cleanup at the end of the day. It's amazing how fast a job site can get destroyed, but one day of work and it looks like a bomb went off. So now that we started cleaning, it'd be nice to keep it that way. But it's pretty cool stuff. That's all I got for today, so I'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one. So I'm here at the end of week 2, day 4. It is Thursday afternoon, and we did pretty much everything we wanted to do today. The guys had to leave a little early to go look at another job, but all the rafters are gone, ridge board's gone, all those truss members are gone out of the middle. The only thing we didn't really get to is cutting these joists apart. We're going to be cutting it right a few inches past the conduit. And I also had the electrician here today getting a few of the straggler wires they missed the last time. But had a good day. Everything went well. It's a little dangerous. Nobody got hurt. And tomorrow is the start of taking these headers off. So it's a big day for me. I'm a little anxious, a little nervous, and excited to start that part. So The building did not fall over. The wall is doing its job. If I had to be honest with myself, I think this thing is way overbuilt, but that's totally fine with me. Did not take all that long, and really wasn't that much money in lumber in the big picture, so it was well worth it. And like I said, I'm more worried about this roof blowing off than I am worried it's gonna fall over. It's pretty cool. Don't really know if I have much else to say in this video, but we got our other full dumpster removed today. That one is pretty much full. We can fit more in there. We can load it up really good too. We can have that thing overflowing because this company is 2 blocks away where their transfer station is. So, but we don't really have, actually I need to get a small container to start putting these headers in, and I'll just have them take this one out, dump it, and bring it back empty, and then I'll tell them to bring an extra, I think they said 12 or 15 yard container. It's only got to fit the header, and it's really not that long. And we're probably going to put just, I don't know, 2 or 3. I'll ask the guy what he thinks the limit is. It's basically whatever their trucks can pick up. We could fit all 6 of these in one container, but I think that would just be a little too heavy for the truck to pick up. But I don't know. Maybe he'll say that's fine. But I love my crew. These guys are awesome, and they had these rafters stripped in a couple hours this morning. All the rafters were gone. Then we just had to climb up and cut away all those truss members and clean up some extra nailers and boards that were left on top of the header. So tomorrow when we come in and cut this thing out, or these joists rather, it'll take no time at all. And you can see what we did here. That's the last rafter with a temporary stud under it. The next rafter over to the left is still completely intact. It's a truss rafter that lands on this header, which is part of the second phase. So when we cut the header off of this bay right here, we need to temporarily support this header on this side. Probably get like a 6x6 and make sure it's really up there good, because we need to clear the whole header off, because when that beam lands on top of the metal post over here, it needs to, the metal post needs to get bolted down to this column. So that whole thing needs to be clear, which means this side of the header will no longer be supported. We'll just slam some boards up in there to hold it up. So I keep talking throughout this video series about whether or not these are joists or rafter ties or what they are, but the reason for that is because they're not really either. In modern framing, which was started before I was born, but from what I've picked up looking at older buildings, I believe they started framing buildings maybe sometime in the 70s. The way, it's pretty much the way they do now, but now we use a lot of metal brackets, joist hangers, hurricane ties, all kinds of metal brackets, which are actually really beneficial to long-term structure. But these, I don't consider these trusses because it's only every third member that has that. It's only every third rafter that has this truss member on it. And I don't really consider them joists because they're not every rafter. So I don't know, I'm not the, you know, ultimate authority on this, but in my mind it's a little confusing. I think this building was built in like the 60s or early 70s, maybe even the 50s, but it's kind of like it's close to modern framing but not quite. And they're not really, so rafter ties go from the bottom third of the rafter on this side to the bottom third on this side, and they hold the whole roof structure together so that it doesn't bow the walls out on either side. And now a lot of buildings that are built, houses in particular, the ceiling joists on the top floor act as rafter ties because they're holding the bottom of the rafters together. And if you only hold them together on the top, they'll still push out on the wall a lot. So you need to have something tying the rafters together on the bottom. So I know that wasn't the best explanation, but if I sound confused when I look at this building, it's because I kind of am. But still know how to put it back together properly. We're definitely doing modern construction in the new plan. All the joists are going to have hangers where they meet the ridge, and hurricane ties where they meet the header, where they land on the eaves on either side. It's all engineered, so it's got to be at or above code. And these engineers actually are really good to work with. It's not my engineer, it was found by the company, but I'll tell you one thing, working as a builder, working with the architect and engineer can either be a nightmare or it can be great. But since I'm not the one cutting checks to the engineer, sometimes they get really particular with working with the builder, and they don't want to deal with me, they'd want to deal only with the owner. But this firm has been great. They have been pretty amenable to certain few changes I've asked to make. That's going to make our job a lot easier. And these drawings are nice, I can read them. So all in all, it's been really good working with this engineering firm. Still don't know why they did the metal posts right there. I would have preferred masonry, but he probably has a good reason, so I didn't actually ask him that. But anyway, I think I'm gonna call it quits for the day. All I gotta do is put some caution tape up, and we're all clean. We're maintaining a clean job site. So yeah, big day tomorrow. Gonna start trying to cut this header out. I don't know if I'm gonna start on the first one though, because I think I probably still will start on this first one, but I have some cracks on the bricks up there. It's not even that bad on this one, but all the way on the other side of the building, I'll show you that before I go. There's some pretty significant cracking, and I emailed the engineer yesterday. We're gonna probably have to fix that top of the post over here before we put a beam on top of it. So you can see that crack starts at the end of the current header, comes diagonally down about 45 degrees. That's probably gonna have to get fixed. And another thing I noticed, when we put the plastic up on that wall, we drilled a bunch of holes through this CMU, and they were all the holes we drilled, they were hollow inside. So what we would have liked to see is some concrete inside of those. Now, CMU is concrete masonry unit, and it's basically what everybody calls a cinder block, but I think there is a difference. The way they used to make cinder blocks is different than what they do now, but they still have each block has a hole on either side, and when you stagger them the way they are, half and half, those holes line up all the way down, and ideally you put rebar down in them and pour concrete. However, they didn't always do that, still don't. And you can fill every third hole. I think the code is every third. I actually don't know, I'm making that up. I'm not a mason, but I don't think there's any concrete. And really, we'd care about just the ones going from the top, the peak up there, all the way down. So we need that to be bearing this beam that we're putting up, and we want solid concrete all the way down to, ideally you want it down to the footing underground. But yeah, it's something we might have to do once we get to phase 2 and open this side up. That's definitely something we're going to investigate, and that's going to be a lot of weight. That right now it's not really holding that much weight, but I'm going to talk about one more thing before I sign off, because I've mentioned this a couple times, why it's a big deal that we're vaulting the ceiling over here. And in light of what I just spoke about a few minutes ago with rafter ties, when you vault a ceiling, you no longer have something tying it together towards the bottom. Rafter ties required to be within the bottom third, and when you vault the ceiling, unless you have something going across and pulling those bottoms together, there's nothing tying the bottoms together. So it's not fully supported there. So what we're doing in this is we have a triple 20-inch LVL, which is huge, over here where the ceiling gets vaulted. There's going to be a big LVL truss that we're building where the beam ends, and then that beam bears on top of this gigantic truss that's going to be on top of this one, and the other end bears on top of that ridge up there. Now, if you've ever seen an old building that is, the ridge is bowed down in the middle, well, that's because it doesn't have a strong enough ridge beam. Sometimes I've seen really old construction that they don't even have beams on the top. They literally just, the rafters meet up there and bump together, and those tend to be bowed a lot. So on this side, which is the first 7 garage bays that have joists that are going to be acting as rafter ties, we do not need a ridge beam, we have a ridge board, and that's a 14-inch LVL, and it's not subject to bending stress like a beam is. So the last 30 feet or so, these two bays, all the weight of the rafters bear down on that beam. It's a ridge beam, it's not a ridge board. So that's how you can have a structure that doesn't have rafter ties. You need to have a ridge beam on top. So, and a beam is subject to bending stress, and it distributes all the weight on it to the two ends, or the end of each span if there's multiple spans. For example, the header we're putting on top of these posts, the new header, which is those metal beams back there, between each of these posts, that header is spanning an opening, and it's carrying the weight of all the rafters, basically half of the building, because, you know, under ideal conditions, you got half the weight going to the back and half the weight going to the front. Of course, it's always changing with load patterns, wind, rain, whatever. And technically, it's probably not exactly half, because the new angle is going to be different than the back. But you know, that's the idea. And these metal beams in the middle of this opening, they hold that weight up and they distribute it to either side where it goes back down the post. So since we've got a giant beam up top carrying all the weight of the roof, half of it's going to go to our truss that we're building, the other half is going to go on that wall straight down to the foundation, to the footing. That's why it needs to be strong over there, and it really doesn't have nearly the load right now that it's going to when that beam lands on top of it. So anyway, that was a long explanation, but that's it. I am signing out. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good night. So we got this thing ready to start cutting the header. Got the fork right up under this concrete beam, and this is how I'm approaching it. So I got the fork about 2 or 3 inches from the front and the bottom, and I put those wedges in there to give it some pressure without pushing. I don't want to use the machine to push on this header. So we're pretty well centered. I marked the bottom there on the center. It's close enough. That's the center mass, so these forks are far enough away from it. And now we got to go rent this cut and break saw and give it a shot. So got to do a couple other errands first. I got to bring one of my helpers to another job, but we just got this set up and just want to do a quick video, show it. So we'll be back later. It is Friday of week 2, day 5, and it is about 6 o'clock right now, and I'm almost ready to go home. Just gotta load up some tools in my truck. But as you can see, we got off 3 of these headers today. Went a lot smoother than we hoped. Well, smoother than we expected. So in my head, at some point, I thought I calculated these at 1,000 pounds each, but I was going off of 12 by 12 by 10 feet for some reason, and these things are 12 by 16 by 12 feet, more likely. Some of them are bigger than others, but they're more like 2,000 pounds, so pretty heavy. And I'm gonna throw up some pictures and I think I took another clip earlier today showing how we shimmed it up from the lift, but went smooth. Everything worked as expected. By the time we got back here with the saw, so I got here at 7:30 today, spent a couple hours getting ready and getting the lift in place. We had to move the lumber, get those joists out, do a bunch of other stuff. We got the lift in place, and then we had to actually bounce out for another job for a couple hours. And then it was me and two other guys. That the third guy stayed at that other job, so for 4 hours of the day. We got back, we took lunch, went to the tool rental place, and got back here. So we were gone for a good 2.5 hours probably. So by the time we actually started cutting these things, I think it was more like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and we got 3 of them out. So I was totally wrong about those cut and break saws, the way they work. And like I said, I never used them before, but it's 2 blades that make a cut about 1 inch wide. This is the saw. It's cut about 1 inch wide. And then you go in, reach in there, and break off that little slice in the middle. And when you rent this thing, they give you this perfect little pry bar that's made for these, and it works great. And so after you break that slice off, you can just go in again and keep doing that. So it has a reach of about, I think it said it was marked on the top, I think it goes 15 inches deep. And you can pretty much keep going from the front. You don't have to like tip it upside down that much, but that last far bottom corner can be a little tricky, but it's not. I mean, these things are pretty cool. I've never used one before. So, and if you've used a demo saw, it's pretty much the same thing operating it. So anyway, we're looking good. Now that tool costs $500 a day to rent, which is crazy. It's basically made, you know, it's got obviously a little bit different than a demo saw, but it's not that much different. And the guy at the rental store said they cost like 3 times as much money as a regular demo saw, which is, yeah, sounds like they're price gouging a little bit, but that's why you just rent tools like that unless you're using them all the time. Anyway, it's late. I've had a long day again. Did a bunch of cleaning. It's looking good. We're ahead of schedule. I have a little bit of a delay with my metal fabricator because apparently he's busy next week and he can't start welding these metal posts on until we get the top piece of concrete off. So we got the headers out today, 3 of them. We have 3 more to go for phase 1. We also have to make a horizontal cut up there, and he needs to cut his square tube stock just to length where it's going to bring our header where we want it to be. Now we're going to have a little bit of play by using the leveling nuts on our threaded rods, but we want to be within 1 inch, maybe 2 max, from our final height. And so he can't cut those until we get those tops cleaned off. And I'm thinking Monday morning we'll get in here. I would have come tomorrow, but I can't and my workers can't, so we're all busy. But get in here and do the last 3 headers, maybe take half a day like it did today, and return that thing. Maybe they'll give me a discount, I don't know. And I think I can use the regular demo saw up there. If I can put that thing on its side, I measured how deep it cuts. It goes 5 inches deep. And if I cut from both front and back and the sides, if I just follow that thing around, holding it horizontally, I'm only gonna have like a 2-inch piece in the middle that isn't cut, and I think we'll just throw a chisel in there and hit it with a hammer and it'll break it off. So that's what I'm thinking. So 2 weeks of work and this place is totally ripped apart, and pretty crazy transformation here. Anyway, I am signing out. Have a good night. So I decided to come in today on a Saturday. It is May 18th, the end of week 2. I didn't do any work. I didn't have to clean at all, but I did have to measure and lay out these metal posts that are going on top of the brick piers once we're all cleaned up there. So I mentioned, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, that my metal fabricator said he's busy all next week, but I don't want any delays on this. Once we get the top of these brick posts cleared off, I want to get moving. Now we can start anchoring the threaded rods. That's going to be a bit of a challenge. I got a good plan for that with a jig I'm going to use that's going to direct our drill bit straight down, and I got another good plan for how we're going to center that. Just in my plan for centering it is I'm going to pull a string. Not sure where I'm going to nail my board on the outside, but I'm going to have a string on this end going all the way over to there. So I think I might have to like put it up on this end of the building, sticking up over those rafters, get it at the same height over here, and just pull that string taut and get it exactly, you know, front to back, exactly where it needs to be over there. Same spot, same relative position on this side. Pull it taut, and then use that string to lay out the top of each of these posts. So it's going to be something along that, to that effect. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to put the board, or that's what we need though. We need to know a straight line is going from that end of the building to this end, because that's, you know, those metal beams are going to be in a straight line. And really we want, you know, once we start cutting rafters, we want them to all be pretty close to the same. If that beam's not parallel to the ridge, you know, if our metal beam's not parallel to that ridge, then we're gonna have to change our rafters as we go. It's gonna make it real tricky to cut them. So the reason we were waiting is because we don't really know how it's gonna work out once we cut that concrete out on the top. You know, we removed the headers already, but now we have to make that horizontal clean cut on top of that brick. And if something happens, let's say we have to cut further down than we intended, well, that metal beam, the final position of that metal, the new metal beam, has to be where it's called out to be on the plan. So if we had to cut lower for some reason, like if the brick's chipped and we decide we're gonna cut another course down, then that square tube that's gonna be the metal post that gets bolted on top would have to be longer to bring the new metal header to the correct height. So I decided to avoid any potential delays and to give my fabricator as much time as possible to work on those. I am just going to assume we're getting a nice clean cut on top of the brick under the concrete, and that's what I'm basing my dimensions off of. So this is what I drew up for him. I'm gonna move it because of the glare. Not sure how well that's showing up, but we had to account for this. So this is our goal here, 12 feet from the ground. We're currently at 10 feet to the old header. We need it to be, the new rough opening height is 12 feet. That's including 1/2 inch plywood and a 2x8 bottom packing board. So that adds up to 2 inches here. So that means the bottom of the metal beam is at 12 foot 2 inches. So over here is my calculation, but we are trying to find the cut size of this metal tube. So this is a 4x4 square stock that's 3/8 inch thick. Cuts it exactly the height we need and welds the bottom plate that has our holes for our anchors, our threaded rods that are going to be sticking up. We're using a leveling nut there. I'm giving myself a 1/2 inch of gap, and then we have a 1/2 inch top plate. Now the bottom plate and top plate are welded to the square stock, and then the steel, the I-beam, W-beam, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be welded to this top plate afterwards. Like when we place that I-beam, the W-beam on top, you know, we're going to get it, rough it into position, use our leveling nuts to bump this whole thing up, make sure it's plumb, level, and then make nice solid contact. And that's the real benefit of these leveling nuts. And then he welds this top plate to the beam. There's going to be a plate, a mending plate that all gets bolted together up there, and that's on every third. You know, after 3 spans, there's a the 2 W beams meet in the middle. So we had to, the bottom of the beam is going to be at 12 foot 2 inches. So the old header is at 10. So up here I have my 146 inches, that's 12 foot 2. Subtract 120, that's the 10 foot height of the old one. Subtract the bottom plate, 1/2 inch thick. I mean, the top plate is 1/2 inch thick, bottom plate 3/4 inch thick. Our leveling nut is a heavy duty 3/4 inch nut, 1 1/4 inch tall, and I'm giving myself a gap of 1/2 inch. So that works out to exactly 23 inches. And that's what he's gonna cut. Now I gave him a few extra days now that he knows exactly how tall to make that. So this week we're gonna start by trying to get the rest of those headers out. Then we need to start working on cleaning the top of those brick posts, getting that concrete off the top. In the meantime, we can start working on sistering up the rear rafters, and I'm going to be getting a delivery with my ridge boards and some other lumber early this week. Once we get those rear rafters in, we can put our new ridge board up, and then I can start setting my anchors on top of these 7 posts. It's 6 spans, 7 posts. And I can be working on that while the guys are sistering the rafters, and I can help them and keep going with what I'm doing. In the meantime, I'm hoping the metal fabricator can get those square tubes made, because once the ridge board's in, And once those anchors are set in the top of these posts, then we go pick up those metal posts from him, put our leveling nuts on the anchors first, then we drop the metal posts on top, bolt it down on top as well. So those threaded rods are going to be sticking up probably like 4 inches or so. We can always cut them after if they're too long, but so yeah, once those metal posts get bolted on, we come pick up a beam. Well, he's actually got to come here and start drilling out his holes and priming that beam. He's trying to get here early this week, but those are the next big steps. It's all getting pretty technical now, so I love this stuff and I'm getting excited to get to these parts of the job, but I don't want any delays. We're looking like we're ahead of schedule now. I want to keep it that way. I want this job to go perfectly smooth. I went and printed out my revised Gantt chart to show the actual start date, and since that old plan ripped when I was cleaning with the backpack blower, got a new plan printed out and ready to start this week. So yeah, I didn't think I was gonna come in today. I do have stuff to do, but I decided I need to get this height figured out for my metal guy so that we don't have any delays on his end. So I think I'm gonna use my regular demo saw, the single blade demo saw, to make these horizontal cuts. I'm even thinking about potentially screwing some boards towards the top of that brick post that I can just lay my demo saw on, build a little platform all the way around the bricks so that I can just rest my demo saw down on it nice, keep it level, and start cutting. So obviously that's a little bit of extra work to start, but I think it'll save us a lot of trouble and give us a cleaner result. Now I'm assuming we're gonna, and if I do that, I have to knock out, you know, we're not gonna reach the very middle of that post. So we're gonna take a chisel and slam that last piece out, and then probably just take a angle grinder with a diamond cup wheel and give ourselves a nice clean surface to anchor into once that's done. So I'm getting a little technical, but these are the things that I need to really start thinking about to keep going with this. So I think that's it. I just figured out how to post my videos. I was having trouble getting the videos off the GoPro onto my computer, so I just posted my first video from last week. That's almost an hour long. It's a long one, but I feel like moving forward the videos are going to be a lot shorter, and I think I'm still going to do, well, I'm debating, do I do one video a week and just keep it at that schedule, or do I film a portion of the job and make a video for each component of the job? So I don't really know. It doesn't really matter, but this will be the end of the video for week 2, and for now that's what I'm gonna stick to. But I'll be filming again on Monday while we're cutting those headers out, and that's it. I'm gonna go home now.